relationship. Ziad, I'm turning back to you. What inspired you to make this story? What was that? Tell us a little bit about the process of making it. I know it didn't happen very fast.
Look, it's not simple to summarize why did I want to do this film from the start. I thought at the beginning it was a great book. When I got a call to make the book, I thought it was very strong because of the investigative scene, brilliantly performed by Uri Gavriel. And is Uri in the hall, by the way? Is Uri there?
Uri's there.
It's so. I wish I was sitting with you guys. I really do. Uri and Dvir and Roba Salami and Nisreen and Basim and Hassan Yassin and everyone. It's a very big regret that I'm not sitting with you. Since we finished the film, I just wanted to be with you because, you know, every time I go into a screening to check the sound for the first few minutes, I ended up staying at least 40 minutes just watching those investigative scenes that I really think you played them so brilliantly, you and Dvir. Fantastic. I mean, it's like every time I say it, I gotta say 25 times, and I still keep on saying, I want to see more of those scenes. It's really, really, it was such a pleasure to work with you. To go back to that answer, I thought the book was terrific, but at the same time, you have to know where I come from. You know, I come from Beirut. The relationship between Lebanese and Israelis, I can't say it's necessarily on the friendly side. We've had so many battles, and at the same time, we had so many. I personally, Ziad, I've had like a lot of artists actually, a lot of filmmakers. I had a curiosity to understand the other perspective. I wanted to be able to come and see what you guys are about. You know, I mean, I've only seen bullets and F-16s and everything. I said, well, I was very, very emotionally curious to come and check it out, how it is. It was not an easy trip, maybe for the legal aspect, but I have to thank mainly Amir Harel, who had been involved in that project since 2007. He has been seeing, I don't know if Amir is in the room. He has been, he's not, okay. Amir and Tony Kopti have really given us some incredible production value. So doing this film mainly was just interesting to do this film, but also because, like I said, there's our background, our hostile background, and I had to come around that. I had to look beyond that, and it's an experience today that is still with me until today. I can assure you, finished the film about a year ago, or even a little more than this. And it's still an experience that haunts me. What can I say? It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you. And Tony is here with us. Stand up. There you go. I don't know if you can see him.
I can see his beard from here. That's all.
It's pretty much what we're seeing too. So. Diving into it a little bit more, this question now is really for the three of you. As far as this being a fiction, a piece of fiction, it was based on a book that was fiction, and yet it's about something that has not happened. A Palestinian Israeli who is a suicide bomber, and in ways I always found, and I think it's just come up a little bit, that we manage, I think, in Israeli society, manages to distance themselves a little bit from this concept of a Palestinian suicide bomber when they're not one of their own. But this story takes it in another direction. How did you all rectify that? How did you work with that? How did you approach this concept of a suicide bomber from within?
You're asking me, or you're asking Ali?
I'm going to ask the three actors this, and then I'm going to get your take on it.
Okay.
Ali, you start. You've been clearing your throat.
It's really complex, subject. So for me, when I took the script, first of all, I really loved the story so much, and the story and the relationship between him and his wife, the doctor and his wife, and the love story. And for me, it was like a love story more than talking about the suicide bombing, because from the beginning of the movie you see in the start until the end, still in love with her. So for me, it was like international story that could be not just about Palestinian-Israeli battle or conflict. It could be like international story. So I don't know, like if everyone wants to say something about it.
For me also the suicide bombing was the trigger, but it's more a movie about a love story about thinking you know the person you share life with and then eventually you don't. It's about the people from the two sides of the conflict, Israelis and Palestinians, and how similar and how not logical this problem is. It's like, for me, the bombing was only the trigger. It wasn't the story.
אותי, זה תמיד מעניין אותי, אבל אותי עניין בתור להיכנס לדמות ולעבור תהליך. אני תמיד מעניין את התהליך, כי לדמות שלי היה תהליך מאוד ברור וקיצוני.
She was interested in the process and her character going through the process, and that's always what's of interest to her. Ziad, what about to you? This concept and the approach of the approach to the film of I think the suicide bombing is really only the trigger for the film and turns into more of an investigative film. And there's one moment in there actually that I think brings it all out is when he ends up in a church, which I believe you changed from the book as you've mentioned. And why did you make that decision to have that scene in the church with the priest?
I'll tell you what it is actually. It was an accident. The original screenplay, when I was shooting it, he was supposed to meet the Imam, Sheikh Marwan, at the end. What happened is I was doing location scout with Tony in Nablus, and that same night I had to drive back to Tel Aviv to continue shooting the next day, because every weekend we would come to Nablus, do the scout and the preparation and go back and shoot. And we parked our car in a little rundown parking lot, and it was about midnight. We were tired, and we were driving back to get into the car, and then suddenly I see on the left a small door with a cross. If you look up, I saw two mosques, very big mosque, and small church hidden in between. I was very surprised because I did not expect to see a church at all in Nablus. You know, Nablus is still a pretty conservative Muslim town. I was very curious, and I said, what about if we knock on the door? So I knocked on the door, the concierge came and opened. It was midnight. I said, do you mind if we take a look at the church? So he sort of agreed. We went in, and I'm just looking at the church. It's a 700 or 800-year-old, fantastically Orthodox Christian church that is so well maintained. And I said, thank you, and we stepped out. We were headed to the car. I stopped Tony and Julius for a second, and I said, Tony, I just had an idea. What if we make Amin, instead of meeting the Imam, we have him meet a Christian priest? What do you think? He thought about it. He said, well, why not? Nobody talks about the Christians anymore. He said, well, thinks that everything's done is up to whatever. I said, well, let me run it by the co-script writer, who was in Beirut, Joel, and let me see if we can rework it out. So I got back to Tel Aviv. I was living on Shanking. I got on Skype, and I called Joel, and I said, Joel, I want to ask you something. What if we do the Imam, the priest, and let's think about the ramification of it. What does it mean? What is the symbol of it? We started discussing it, and then we decided to go ahead with the idea because I wanted to make it unexpected. I wanted to break the cliche that it's not Sheikh Yassin. It's that, you know, the Palestinian issue is not really a religious issue. It's not like in Lebanon, in my country, we are a country based on religious differences: Shiite versus Sunni, Druze, Christian Maronite, Alawite. In Syria, it's a little bit religious. In Iraq, it's religious. But in the Palestinian issue, it's not a religious struggle, it's a national struggle. And I called the actor Ramzi Maqdisi, who was supposed to play Sheikh Marwan. I said, Ramzi, you're going to be a priest? He said, what the hell are you talking about? I said, yes, we're going to have to change the role into a Christian. So we went back, and I rewrote the screenplay 2-3 days, and we made her, instead of, because Siham was supposed to be Muslim, I made her Christian, and we buried her in Yafa Cemetery, and we rewrote the entire thing on a pure accident, actually. And I think it was a good serendipity. I think it works better than the priest works better than the imam.
A profound statement, no doubt.